That was Prosecutor Dan Owens. I'd like to bring in my another new guest who's a friend of Gene Rossi, our law and crime analyst, and that is Stephen Mulroy. Stephen, you were on with me last week. You wrote a book, and let me repeat it, Rethinking U.S. Election Law. You are University of Memphis, Tennessee
law
professor, right?
Right.
Law professor, right?
Right.
So as a law professor, I have a question for you, okay?
Sure.
You have
Sure.
5 alleged victims here, 3 alleged rapes, although the defense attorney in his closing never mentioned the word consensual sex for 1 and 2. And then you have 2 women who allegedly he was showing off his private parts for. Does this reek of you because you have 5 of, hey, sex pervert there on my TV set?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you nailed it. There are so many different witnesses here who the prosecution, I think, correctly points out, don't know each other. So there's not a good argument that they're all in cahoots somehow. And they're all independently saying very, very similar things. 3 of them saying the exact crime in question, 2 of them saying something rather related. It's hard to argue that all of them are lying. It's a real problem for the defendant here. If it was just one, you could argue that, well, there was consent and it went wrong and there's a motive to lie. But to say that with respect to 5 different, distinct witnesses who don't know each other or didn't know each other prior to the trial, that's a tough row to hoe.
Yeah, I think that Stephen hits the nail on the proverbial head. Gene Rossi, the law and crime legal analyst, because even if they were there as, other crime evidence, oh my gosh, I mean, that's why I think when number 4 testified and number 3 testified, they kind of washed away the sins of number 1, if you want to call them sins, correct?
Absolutely. I'm not going to use highfalutin language like Professor Mulroy of University of Memphis Law School. I'm going to talk about a bowl of spaghetti, okay, with red sauce. That's this indictment. You got 5 counts. You take that bowl of spaghetti, you throw it at the wall, and you hope that spaghetti indictment has one of those strands stick. That's the problem when you have multiple counts like this. A jury subconsciously is going to say, I can't find all these counts acquittals.
Right.
I got to find 1 or 2 convictions.
Or maybe all 5, Gene, are convictions. Let's see what Dan Owens, the prosecutor, had to say about some of the other women who allege that Kellen Winslow is a sex pervert, and he's perverted. I think both cases have tried this case masterfully. I'd like to go to Stephen Mulroy, University of Memphis Law School professor. What is the best thing the prosecution has done?
Well, I think the best thing the prosecution has done is to continually emphasize that these 5 separate strands that are independent of each other are intertwined and are mutually reinforcing. To use Mr. Rossi's metaphor, which I think is appropriate for Mr. Rossi to talk about spaghetti, had all the strands of the spaghetti were intertwined, mutually reinforcing, strengthening each other, one of them's going to stick.
Gene, defense, 10 seconds or less. What's the best thing they've done?
Professor Mulroy's right about spaghetti. I think one of the best things the defense did was they started off with that beautiful opening that was about 12 minutes. They didn't overpromise, but they did overperform. And the cross-examination of Jane Doe 1 and 2 were excellent.
That is great. Just thinking here, yes, you're both right. Okay, so when we come back, there'll be more of this trial. Hopefully they'll be live by then. Aaron Keller will be in this seat. Stay tuned to the Law and Crime Network. Only here will you get this case gavel to gavel with us.